Then don't look at
Subrat, this is a great transition point to getting into part 3. You need to have this conversation with your CEO.
Sure.
And obviously the one thing he will bring up is ROI, value, what is the ROI. As an HR professional, or the HR fraternity, let me not assume. In the HR fraternity, we've always struggled with this translation into monetary gains, and how feasible, therefore, is it to have this conversation even today about you wanting to make this investment and the value that emerges from it?
You know, I think the answer lies in what I said in the previous part of this thing, that whether those investments, are you tracking it till the last mile ROI? It has been, some functions have done it, like learning, I believe, you know, there's a tremendous amount, and that's why perhaps e-learning itself is becoming a 50 billion business, right? Because the ROI is very direct and driven. Second, I see that a lot happening in recruitment now. The ROIs are very clear, well established. The issue is all about in the middle, and that is where, you know, whether the question of employee touch point, you know, there are a lot of soft aspects of, you know, the way we define ROI. Are we ready for those metrics through which we are going to get measured in our employee partner side or business HR impact side? I think those are the areas where, you know, that it becomes a little, you know, loose discussion in that sense, I would say. You know, I just wanted to add one more perspective on the point which you raised on HR touch point. Today, the whole paradigm, because of the advent of the technology and ease and access and price point at which it is available, it is very clear that the paradigm with which people work is back off till I need you. Give me my space, I will make my choices. When I need you, you should be accessible. This is the model which is prevalent across service industry. If you see the whole BPO voice business growth and how it shrank through the use of technology.
We as customers behave like that.
Sure.
So why should it be any different for employees?
When you get an inward call, you know, your behavior, you cut the phone.
Right.
But when you have a problem and you want to call a help desk,
right,
you expect the response in a second's time.
That's a great analogy.
Right?
That's a great analogy.
And this is exactly what is happening with employees.
The problem
Do they want
is
you all the time
when we
there?
want to reach our managers,
yes,
they're not available.
Absolutely.
So that's where the frustration sets in.
That's the bridge, and you know, technology could be a great enabler in that sense also to improve this connect. Because it's not that the face-to-face or this, you know, it's really that access is what the employees are asking for.
It's like when you get onto a call and you're speaking to the Airtel customer service person.
And 20 buttons before you.
And when you actually got to the person says, actually you can log on to the net and this is the,
way to do it.
This is the email, the link that you can use, and that time you're frustrated. And pretty much I think if you draw that back into an organization, the manager will say, well, that's available on that site. Go and look it up. And that's the time I had reached out to the manager, probably for a broader discussion, not limited to that very point. Great.
I'll just add a point to what Subrat just said. The reason why, from a CEO's perspective, the reason why a CMO is closer to CEO's office is that there are measurable metrics. You know, if, for example, there are clearly measurable metrics in terms of how do my marketing perform. It can be measured in terms of sales numbers which are bringing to the table. So HR needs to invest to present its case in business numbers. How are they directly linked to the operational, how do they impact the profitability of the organization? The moment HR can effectively do that, invest in processes to measure that, be it dashboards or human resource information systems. The moment you start showing empirical evidence to show the direct relationship between profitability and the benefits that you're getting through it, HR will move from back office to the boardroom.
Now, our current state in comparison to where we want to be, as far as HR is concerned, there is a lot of distance to be covered on account of either legacy systems, not being late adopters. Luckily for us, technology is cheaper today, so that makes the conversation simpler, but it doesn't conclude it. Because of the nebulous subject of HR itself, which is about people. It's not about products, it's not machinery. It's always challenging to create a business case for why you should be a better leader. I mean, you get it, but when you start looking for the evidence, you say, where do I look for it? Because I haven't tracked it for 15 years and suddenly now I have to put up a business case. That makes it challenging. So how do we create even the skill to prepare a good business case for change? How do we prepare an ROI plan? A third is our own ability to even understand what technology can do, and therefore a deeper understanding and appreciation of the subject itself. So, SMAC, these words are big data, analytics. Everybody throws them around. Sit down with and have a conversation and try and get into depth. You'd find most people wanting in our fraternity. So that's an area that we must obviously improve on. It's no easy task ahead of us, but clearly the opportunity is glaring us, and we can make the most of it. So with that, I'd like to thank Amit, Vijay, Subrat, Sudhakar, and over to you, ma'am, for
Thank you so much, Mr. Suri.
2 questions, the choice is yours.
Hi, my name is Nimisha. My question is there for the panelists sitting over here, where I want to understand, I think in previous sessions we have discussed the role of any business partner or any HR, as a matter of fact, that it needs to be very, very flexible and we need to understand the business and go back to the business and try getting back. And on the other end, we have technology, we have systems oriented in such a way that a lot of policies and processes have been brought into the system. And we have built up our HR systems on the basis of that. Do we really think that the systems which we have built in will be able to accommodate the kind of flexibility we need to get back from the business, is my question.
My own personal experience in this is the HR people need to understand the why of it. See, everyone can go to that website and read the policy. Everyone can read what is written there. Everyone knows what's doable and not doable. If after that someone approaches you, you have to understand the why of that. What is the need? Why is that person coming to me? Once you get to that, you'll automatically have the touch point, the flexibility, and the linkage to provide a solution. You could still go back and say no, and say not doable. But if you don't understand that, then the whole conundrum starts to say, you know what, HR doesn't care, no one listens to me, I'm just throwing a policy manual. I think that whole bridge needs to be gapped to be able to demonstrate flexibility. And for me, flexibility is not always agreeing or saying yes. I think flexibility is listening, understanding, and then giving the right whatever option or solution from an organization and an employee standpoint.
My question is that with technology, why can't we use more collaboration? Let there be more transparency. What Subrat talked about. When employee needs you, you should be there. And we have technologies like we can develop enterprise social network where if an employee wants, he can reach to your HR. HR might be handling 1,000 people who are in different geos, different locations. It is difficult for him to meet in person everybody, but technology allows it. Perhaps I think to my mind, we are not doing it as a fraternity because we feel that it will bring a lot of dirt in the open. People might question policies, people might say, they don't agree with the processes. And if it is already there, it is there under the carpet, let it come out and try and solve it.
I think, again, it's not just about technology, but it's about the culture of the organization. If you want to actually keep the problems under carpet and not allow them to surface, you'll never solve the problems. So if you have a very simple feedback mechanism, for example, technology enabled, not enabled, forget that part. That is step 1. But if you don't take action on that feedback, you are putting all the problems under carpet. So I think technology can enable you to bring that problem in front of you. But you have to back up with maybe policy changes, some technology changes, the flexibility part that she spoke about, or the process changes. So it has to first start with the culture of the organization, whether the organization is willing to change itself. Because one of the things that one of us has to keep in mind at all times is the policy which was relevant 6 months back may not be relevant today. The process which was I put up 6 months back may not be relevant today. So we have to be agile to that fact and not stick to my own.
I'll share with you a recent experience. The CIO had called us to have a discussion on an ERP deployment. But the way he described the project was not an IT ERP implementation project. He said this is a project of changing mindsets.
Yes, correct.
And therefore the importance of culture and change, and you had that previous session on change, you'd find the emphasis that people put even for ERP deployments on the ability to change, whether that's communication, training, culture, collaboration, all these aspects become even more important because the investment you're making otherwise is going to go waste. it's not going to succeed. So it can't be used as a crutch. It has to be used as an enabler. That's my final message. So with that, ma'am, thank you for allowing us.
Yes, we'll wrap up this session.